welcome. I'm Ari Lax, and this week we've got a real nice one lined up. Uh, this was a deck that I played against at Grand Prix Vancouver in round 5 or 6, and the match was really weird. To put it simply, Game 3 came to the point where I had assembled my Infinite Scry, Infinite Life combo. In theory, I should just be able to scry to something that wins me the game the next turn, and instead we just played Magic for like another 5 or 6 turns of just me having to reassemble the combo through like Path to Exile, Rest in Peace, every single piece of hate I could imagine, just turn after turn, one by one, and eventually there was a turn that my opponent bricked off, and I was able to pick up the infinite combo and kill them. But it was really weird. The deck felt pretty powerful. Like I just got crushed game 2 by Linvala. So when I saw the list pop up in the top 32 deck list, and it was the same player, I was immediately interested in what was going on. And what is going on is the mesh between Thought-Knot Seer and Eldritch Evolution. So you're the kind of toolbox version of Eldrazi, which is kind of a weird thing to say, but if you look at the mana, you got a bunch of colorless sources. Obviously, Eldrazi Temple and Brushland are just the two best cards in the deck. For colored sources, you're a little choked, a little more than usual, I think. Only a couple Windswept Heaths. You don't want a ton of this effect really in this deck. I think Thicket's just kind of free roll. A bunch of Ghost Quarters for attacking the Tron-ish segment of the meta. Waste in the mana for when you get Ghost Quartered yourself, which is pretty important. And then some Nobles and Birds is basically kind of backup ramp to the Temples. On the low end, this is kind of how you want to talk about EVO. You got low end, high end, and like how you bridge the gap. Voice of Resurgence and Matter Reshaper and Kitchen Finks are your value sack threats. Because really, a lot of the stuff you're finding is not, game 1 at least, not just slam dunk, put away the game. You do want that extra value on that. So Voice jumps up to Thought-Knot Seer, which is kind of the big thing that excited me about this deck, is that you have access to 8 early Thought-Knot Seers. If you remember the videos that I did with Eldrazi Tron the other week, I said that the deck being less interactive than Bant Eldrazi was a huge issue, because you can only draw Thought-Knot Seer in your opening hand so much, and this deck draws it so much and then some, which is great. You can also bridge your Mana Dorks into tutor targets with Evo. So you got Teague, Decao, Ad Naus. Card's very good at it. You got Prime Mage against random other. It's just like some enchantments you got to pick off. Even though I didn't like this card as a disenchant main deck in Abzan Company, it's worth considering having that effect in your deck. Spellskite to shut off Bogles, Infect, all that kind of stuff. Eternal Witness as a rebuy effect for Path Exile. And then Displacer is just a dominant board controlling effect. Interaction worth noting is Eldrazi Displacer plus Eternal Witness. Lets you just basically, with Path Exile, pay for 4 mana, exile a creature. And that is actually, in discussing the match afterwards with Ivan Gen, when I played against him, who was the player who played this deck, he actually was, once I had Infinite Life, he actually had an out of, he could assemble that combo of, Blink my Witness, exile your creature, repeat that multiple times a turn, and then once I've lost all my creatures, eventually assemble Thought-Knot Seer, Displacer, and start forcing me to draw cards to deck me, which is pretty interesting. I also name dropped Ivan Gen there. You may recognize that name if you've been paying attention to coverage for a little while. Thinking back to a SCG Open in Oakland, around the time of Konzatark here, he was the player who won with Jeskai Heroic, which was kind of, his own homebrew, which is another thing that, I didn't realize till after the tournament, after playing him, but, he does have a pedigree of making these weird homebrew decks that are successful. So, another reason to kind of take a look at this deck. So on the high end, we've got Sears, Smasher, the typical Eldrazi stuff. Linvala as a high-end hate bear, which is also a fine card, 3/4 flying. People play Resto Angel to play Resto Angel, so this card carries its weight. And we got some alternate 5s. We've got, once you draw and cast a 5-drop, it's all kind of interchangeable in Modern, but you've got some ones to tutor up, bridging off of, Reshapers or whatever. You have Sigarda as the unkillable one, so if you just manage to stick a 3 against a mid-range deck and then slam Evo into Sigarda, you're probably home safe. And then Gearhulk as the one to just go super huge where that's relevant. Gearhulk Displacer seems nuts. Then alongside all this creature nonsense, just some pass. That's kind of like if you're not playing Quarter Calling, that's kind of the stock thing to do is in these toolbox decks is your last 4 cards, last 4 spells are pass. Looking at the sideboard, we've got our toolbox, Deadeye Harpooner as a removal spell. You can flicker it with Displacer and then tap their creatures with Displacer and flicker this to trigger Revolt and go off killing all their stuff. Eidolon Rhetoric as your Storm Hate card. This deck does not have Quarter Calling for 2, so it's going to be Eldritch Evolutioning a Mana Dork for 3-drop, so you get to play the better one that actually shuts off a Quarter Shield and that kind of nonsense, as opposed to wanting to Cord for 2 on turn 3 in the Obzon Company deck where you have to play Canonist. Rex Sage is just a stickier way to kill artifacts and enchantments. Another Finks as another value threat, also a way to gain life. Another way to gain life in Obstinate Baloth. Another Spellskite, that's just a card you want to draw early when it's good. And then a Malira against Infect. And then we've got Rest in Pieces for Dredge and the like. Stony Silence for Affinity. Split with Creeping Corrosion, just because drawing multiple Stony Silence can be bad if they just get out underneath it. You'd rather have the ability to draw a mix. All is Dust to kind of break the mid-range stally games. Torpor Orb against Creature combo, and then a Worship. There's just like a lot of random decks that Worship is going to be able to carry a game against. So, kind of impressive actually. So this deck, we'll see how it goes. It threads 2 very powerful things together, and Eldritch Evolution is a card that I feel like has been looking for a home in the format. So I'm excited to see firsthand what it can actually bring to the table.